Right to Care has warned that HIV-positive people and those with tuberculosis who are not on treatment will be at higher risk of worse outcomes if they contract the coronavirus. According to UNAIDS, over 7 million South Africans are HIV-positive and about 3 million are not getting treatment. Well, to discuss this further, we're now joined by Right to Care CEO, Professor Ian Zana. Thanks so much indeed for joining us, Prof. So it is a concern for people that are HIV positive and those that are with TB, and I guess all of this has got to do with your immunity levels.
Yes, thanks, Peter, for your interest in this topic. We are concerned about the coronavirus as everybody is in the country, and we hope that although people should panic, that the NICD and the incident management team will in this outbreak. But we'll focus for a little bit on HIV. Groups of people living with HIV. Those that are indeed infected and with HIV and on treatment, antiretroviral therapy, they are probably doing the best they can, and an undetectable viral load is, in my view, going to be protective, making the risk of coronavirus, everybody's at risk of getting this new virus, but indeed the risk of severe disease will be similar for those people who are taking antiretroviral therapy. The group that we're really worried about is the group that started treatment yet. And we know that is about 2 million people in South Africa. And many people are walking the streets of South Africa, have an increased HIV, perhaps they have who's positive, or perhaps they in fact have a suspicion of symptoms. And those people, we're really calling upon to get HIV tested as quickly as possible and get onto antiretroviral therapy to provide them the best hope possible. I think the risk is actually substantive. From work in influenza, we think that actually untreated HIV, the risk of severe disease should they become infected with coronavirus is probably as much as 100-fold. That of the risk of the general population. So we really do wish to reach out to people. It's only the right thing to do for their own health, but also for the transmission of HIV.
All right. So you're saying that those that are on treatment, that are taking their ARVs and are managing their viral loads at this stage, not need to worry too much. They are at risk, they are vulnerable like everybody else, but they will enjoy some protection with the treatment that they're on. But the ones that are not on treatment, those are the ones that are of a major concern.
Yes, correct. So they're not yet on antiretroviral, and we also have seen probably about 5 or 6% of people who miss their and have interrupted treatment, and we would really recommend folks that they get back to clinic and get back onto their routine regime.
All right.
Case of tuberculosis.
Let's talk about tuberculosis now.
So those people who had TB in the past, we do think that they've done the best they can to prevent additional risk from coronavirus. Those treatments need to finish 6 months of treatment for drug-sensitive TB. And those that have been TB contacts, have had family members who may have had TB or are suspicious. Yesterday, call center, the COVID call center, was a man who said he's been losing weight, he's coughing a lot of spute, and indeed had a family member who had TB. Now, symptoms of TB, night sweats, loss of weight, and coughing blood. And those people need to also make a move and get to the clinic to have a TB diagnosis made and start TB treatment. Not everything we see is going to end up being coronavirus. In fact, we've got lots of other lung diseases, particularly TB, in this country. And of key concern is actually that we are probably facing an important influenza outbreak this year. Influenza is a preventable disease. We're looking to those who can access through their medical aid or through pharmacies to get an influenza vaccine done. The Department of Health is working on guidelines for those most at risk to actually receive influenza vaccine from the government. But indeed, I would not wait for that. The supply of influenza vaccine are limited at the moment in South Africa. And so indeed, people at risk of coronavirus should in fact also try and access through the private pharmacies a influenza vaccine as quickly as possible. There's almost a double whammy that comes coronavirus and influenza, and also I think the confusion, the same symptoms that corona causes with influenza. I personally believe it should lessen the impact of the influenza epidemic.
All right, so they keep saying there's something about age that's associated with this. So if you're HIV positive or got TB and you're elderly, that is a further complication. Is that the case?
Yeah, so we don't know whether these are cumulative or independent risk factors. We will certainly have the data. There's almost no, in fact, I'm not aware of a known HIV positive person who's been diagnosed with coronavirus. And so, but we're certainly set up to collect this data. We will have answers rapidly.
What is it about TB that is so compromising to the immune system that makes people particularly vulnerable? I think most of us, just by the name of AIDS, understand the relationship it has with immunity. What is it about TB?
So, in fact, it's a very prevalent disease in South Africa. It's a slow, gradually growing organism. Our estimates, South Africa contributes about 20% of TB cases worldwide, which is it's actually probably 80% of the population is harboring, has been previously exposed to TB, and may even be harboring TB bacilli in their lungs. Now, any event of immune compromise will bring that tuberculosis to the fore. And HIV is the one big one that we're aware of, but indeed it can be diabetes, smoking, it can be age. So we often see in otherwise people as age progresses that they present with TB later in life. Now, the coronavirus link is really, I think, it probably is a risk factor for severity, as any other underlying lung condition would be. And, age fits into that category too, but certainly emphysema, chronic obstructive airways disease, all of these, silicosis, mining exposure, all of those I feel will be end up being an independent risk factor for severity of disease.
All right, so Professor, we're going to have to leave it there, but thanks very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us about this. And again, just reminding people, not on treatment, get tested, get treated, and try and reduce the vulnerability. Thanks so much indeed.